Joining us this morning. This is an event that is part of the Women's History Month, but it's also a part of our initiative for STEMinar. Do we know what STEMinar stands for? Our panelists, I'm sure, don't know, but STEMinar is an initiative at the Inter-American campus, now named Eduardo J. Padron Campus. Our name was officially changed yesterday, so this is actually a great opportunity, right, to test it out. See, I'm still struggling. So we have a campus grant called STEMinar, where students receive scholarships, and as part of their scholarship package, they get exposed to great women like you, and we thought for Women's History Month, it would be awesome to invite females to talk about their experiences and those who are working in STEM fields. So I'm going to ask you to introduce yourselves, just say your name and what you're doing right now, and we will start right here on my left with Erika.
Thank you and good morning. My name is Erika Dugé-Augustin. I am an electrical engineer and computer engineer, and I had my master's in electrical engineering. Currently, I'm working for Florida Power and Light. I am part of the engineering department, and I oversee right now as a manager several projects and several contract vendors. So my work every day is very, very busy. So they keep me very busy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Dr. Nia Madison. I work at Miami Dade College Homestead campus, where I teach microbiology and anatomy and physiology. I'm also the director of HIV Research there, and I have a Ph.D. in biomedical sciences from Meharry Medical College in Nashville, Tennessee, where I'm from.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm Anabetsy Rivero. I originally graduated from Miami Dade College Inter-American campus, so this is near and dear to my heart. I graduated initially with a degree in biology from here, went on to pursue a bachelor's of science in biochemistry and molecular biology at University of Miami, and then went on to obtain my master's in computer science, where I specialized in artificial intelligence, data mining, and mathematical modeling. And I'm the CEO of Vidu AI. Very busy, just like these two other ladies. I work 24/7, so thank you.
Thank you for gracing us with your presence. So I am Loretta Overai. I serve as the Dean of Faculty at this campus, and I have questions for you. So feel free to jump in, and students, please feel free to come by to the mic too, and just wave if you have a burning question, and I'll call on you. All right, so we said this is Women's History. You are doing amazing things out there in the community and providing great examples for our students to follow. So we're really interested to hear, how did you get into this field? What motivated you to get into your choice? You have an interesting journey. You started with biology, ended up with computer science. Let's start with you.
Yes, actually, the path wasn't really straight at all. When I came from Cuba like 11 years ago, I said I want to study as little as possible. I want to get out of school in like 2 years. So I decided, I came to Miami Dade College, learned English, and I decided, okay, I'm going to major in nursing. I'm going to get this degree. I'm going to make a ton of money, and I'm going to get out of school. First class I took with Dr. Victor Okafor changed all of that. I hated chemistry before I took that class, by the way. I was terrified of him. And I loved his class. So I switched my major to biology, and I wanted to pursue medicine at the time. Therefore, I became a biochemist and molecular biologist, and until this day, I love it very much. It so happened, though, that I graduated from University of Miami and got my first job working at an oncogenomics lab at University of Miami. And it was a great job in the sense that I loved the science and all of that, but I didn't love the pressure. I hated the salary. I mean, you graduate and you think you're going to make the big bucks, right? And then you come out and they're like, oh, yeah, you're going to make $34K. And it's like, excuse me? You know, I have like $70K in student loans from UM. How am I going to pay for that? And so that was the first shocking problem I had. Long story short, I went on to work at a cancer lab, at a breast cancer lab, and they worked with mice as their model of breast cancer. And I said, you know what, I'm going to give it a shot. Maybe this is better than the previous job. I went in, and I hated working with mice. I hated all of the experience. Like, babysitting mice for a living was terrifying. Like, imagine holding a little mouse. It's like, ee! Every time you hold it, it just squeaks and they run and jump and run away in the room. It's just horrible. So some people love it. But anyway, long story short, I hated it so much that I taught myself how to code, got myself into a master's in computer science, and said goodbye. And this is how I got where I am.
That's such an amazing story, because I think a lot of times when we think about oncology, right, you want to cure cancer, you want to find the cure, be a part of the cure, but we don't understand what it takes to get there, right, to be that star. So thank you for sharing that. So Professor Madison, you came all the way from Nashville. Tell us your journey.
Yes, I did. Well, I was born in Chicago and raised in Texas and Arizona, and then I went to graduate school in Nashville, where I spent the majority of my time, so I claim that as my home place, although I've been pretty much everywhere. And I come from a family of a lot of physicians. There are 24 physicians at last count, so I always grew up just thinking I was going to be a physician. It just came naturally to me. But when I saw a documentary on HBO about the HIV pandemic in sub-Saharan Africa, I was 12 years old, and I saw the images, the people were suffering, and I said, they look like me. And they're suffering. I'm going to help them. I'm going to cure them. And I set out on a path to do HIV research. From that point forward, I decided that I could help millions of people at one time if I were to discover the cure for something like HIV versus helping one patient at a time as a physician. So from that, I committed to finding a cure for HIV, which I'm still trying to do now.
Thank you so much. And so we go to the engineering perspective. We've talked about science, computers. Give us some engineering perspective, Erika. How did you get into this field? What motivated you to choose it?
Well, I came from a family where I'm pretty much the only girl in the family, so I was raised with my brothers and my cousins. And I recall very vividly when I was living in Haiti, I used to go to school in the capital city, but during the summertime, I would go to my grandma's house in the countryside. So imagine you go to the countryside, there's no light, there's no TV, there's nothing. So you have to find creative ways to keep you busy. So one of the things that we used to love doing is really building different things. We build instruments, we did gardens, and the one thing that I loved doing was building the tiny houses we used to build. And they used to be very nice. Tiny houses, yes. So, and they used to be very nice, and I remember sometimes they even be used for people when they come by, because during September time, there's like this big feast in our area, and we have a lot of people that come around, and they even use our tiny house to stay in. So it was really well built.
Well done.
So all of these little things kind of, I know I wanted to do something where I can use I wanted to build things. And with the fact that I was very good as well in math and science, so naturally I wanted to be an engineer. But when I was accepted to Florida State University, I really went in really to be a computer engineer. Because, I wanted to be a computer engineer because at the time when I came here to the United States, I was very fascinated on how computer works and things like that. And I wanted to be part of the people that are building this kind of equipment. But midway to my undergrad at FSU, I decided to also do a major in electrical engineering. So I ended up doing dual degrees there, but I guess later on, my husband is also a computer engineer, so I didn't want to be a computer engineer, so I kind of leaned more towards electrical engineering, so ever since I've been in that field. And I also went ahead and get my master's at FIU later on.
Well, thank you. So now, when people think about electrical engineers, they're not thinking about a female from a minority background. That's not what we typically think. How is that world? How is that life?
Well, when I was attending FSU, that was a few years back. I don't want to age myself, but back in 2000, I attended FSU. So, and then 2 years later, maybe around 2002, that's when I fully joined the engineering school. I will have to tell you that some of the classes, there were no females. Some of them, I was the only girl in the class. So you can imagine some of the challenges that I have to encounter, because sometimes at that time, I don't know, maybe now it's better. Maybe some of the classes now are better, but there are classes that, especially the lab classes, I didn't have a partner because none of the men we want to work with me. So yeah, so those are the kind of adversity that I had to overcome. But I think those are the kind of things that kind of help me become a better engineer and make me even more resilient.
So what made you say, nobody wants to work with me, I'm going to do what I want to do? Keep going. What was the motivation?
Well, I wanted I wanted to graduate and do well for myself. I know where I came from. I know that the education was important to me. As the oldest, I know I was setting example for my brothers. I'm the only girl, so I don't have.
I can relate, though. I'm the only girl too.
I don't have a sister,
So I
but
can relate.
my brothers look up to me, and I wanted to make sure that I was setting the right example for them.
Okay, that's very good to hear. So you're working in these amazing industries. You're doing well. What are some of the projects that you've been working on that you would like to share with our students that they could aspire to and, draw some strength to pursue one of the fields that you're working in?
I'll take that question. In graduate school, I worked on a parasite called Trypanosoma cruzi. It's a parasite for which there's no cure. It's endemic to South America, but because of global warming, the niche for the vector is rising north, and the vector is a beetle, by the way. The beetle is a blood-sucking beetle, and when it bites you, it then, after it takes a blood meal, it then defecates into the wound, and its feces has the Trypanosoma cruzi parasite in it. So that is how people get infected, and this beetle is in the United States now, and 50% of those beetles are infected with this parasite. So
That's why I'm endorsing.
use your bug spray for sure. So in grad school, I discovered that an antibacterial protein called human defensin alpha-1 could kill this parasite. And that was the first time anyone discovered a protein that could kill the parasite. So the lab that I worked in grad school is still working on that. And then for my postdoctoral training, I came back to HIV research, and I discovered that exosomes, which are little vesicles in biological fluids, the exosomes can inhibit HIV infection in many different ways. And the exosomes have over 400 proteins within them, so then I set out to determine which of those 400 proteins is actually mediating the inhibitory reaction, and that's what I'm still doing to this day.
Oh, thank you. That's amazing. I know for the non-sciences, they're like, you just said bugs, right? Bugs are a problem. We know bugs are a problem. And one person
And
said
global
bug
warming.
spray. And global warming. It is real.
Yeah,
and
bug
it
spray is
has an
very
impact.
important. Like my job, I have to go out in the field frequently, so we do make sure our employees do put bug spray and insect repellent, because if they do get a bite, in my field I have to worry about OSHA, so that can become like an OSHA recordable injury or an incident. So we have to make sure that our employees are well protected every time they go out in the field as well.
Right, so as you say that, I'm thinking most times people have concerns that if they want to do a job like yours, that they put themselves at risk, right? Because even the same thing you're talking about, you're in a lab, you're working with microorganisms that are kind of dangerous, right? And plus, HIV is a virus, which is even more dangerous. So how do you deal with that risk factor? Because when we think about women, we've already heard the mice story, right? Like, oh, mice. But you still continued your journey, irrespective of how dangerous some of these things are. How have you handled those?
Well, we have to make sure we wear our protective equipment when we go out. Well, I guess in my example, I do go out in the field to do various site visits and things like that. So wearing our protective equipment is very important. And we do stress that a lot within my team and the company in general, because we always say that we want to have 0 injuries at all time. Going on the site to look at the construction is very dangerous. Anything can fall from something might fly, or anything can go wrong. But it's always have a awareness that you are in a dangerous place, and you have to make sure that you take all precautions so you can get back home safe.
Well, thank you. Anabetsy, I know you're working on a great project, so if you want to add to this and tell us about your project.
Yes, I'll add to that. One of the things that, and that's where, right, everybody thinks, well, I'm going to be exposed to HIV, right? But the thing, it's important to know, like when you start working in a lab, the first thing that a university does is that they give you vaccines, they test you for tuberculosis, they test you a lot. And on top of that, you're very well trained to handle these things. Like I didn't mention, so my husband is actually a Ph.D. He's an HIV vaccine expert. And so what he makes is like these HIV vaccines that can be used to put it in the muscle and that potentially could achieve a functional cure. So when I feel like going into a lab, I just go 4 floors down from my office, I put on a pair of gloves, and I'm in an HIV lab. And I work with HIV on my free time and weekends. But I don't get paid to do that, and that's the fun part. I do it for fun. So about my projects, wow, where to start?